So yesterday we went over AutoCut, rules, ACAD parts. So were you guys successful using AutoCut to do that corner? It wasn't too bad. Almost everything was in ACAD parts already. This is how mine turned out. So I have some of my fillers. I use the ACAD parts data just as a reference, and it looks like the distance from the dim point out to here is 14 inches, so that's what I made it, which avoids the T-clips completely at the corner. The fillers at the horizontal, they're actually mitered like that. This I think was set to 5/8 back. And I think it's just a little bit behind the sort of perfect diagonal line here. So this shouldn't hit the other pressure bar. And I ended up using all the Fabs that they gave that were on the server as well. So I didn't have to make anything new. And also here, these parts, the main body parts, they're getting held off of this corner by a little bit, according to the data. So looks like they're a 1/16 shy from hitting the corner directly, leaving an 1/8 inch gap. So my UD data, at least at this corner, has a negative 1/16 for the length. And remember that 1/16 is measured perpendicular to the miter, so it comes out here in the bim model as a perfect negative 1/16.
Yeah, question. In the window you just had up, UD data, which column there shows the notch?
There are no notches in here at all. So in the absence of any sort of Fab template, the lengths here are just purely if it's straight cut or just mitered straight across, if in the case of AutoCut parts. The notches appear as part of this Fab template. So this Fab template X001-1R has the notches inside of it. And it knows to use that template based on this Fab number. So I guess in a roundabout way, the answer to your question is the Fab number here tells it which notches to use on this part. So different notch combinations or even different gasket combinations will change this Fab number, or you'll have to change this Fab number in response to that to get different notching situations and whatnot.
Okay, I'll have to go back and check out the last class again. I just did my Sill. Actually, I did all of them, but I got them to AutoCut really nicely. I just didn't get that tongue to overhang, so I gotta go back and watch the video.
Yeah, you have to add that. That's a notch on here. So let's see here. That's not it. This guy. So for my horizontal, when I chose Fab 1R, it pulled this off the server, which has that notch built into it. So as long as you're using 1R for your Fab number, you should get that.
Okay.
For the sills, I think it was also 1R. Yeah, 1R for the sills as well. And then the head. So the head actually is kind of interesting also. Because you're using the same part at both the head and the sill. The head, if you use Fab 1L, you end up getting that same notch, but because it's flipped around, upside down, they look like they're in the same place. it's always interesting with stick walls like this. Let me open the Fab template.
Because essentially you could switch them and it'd still work for each other.
Yeah, exactly. But they have to have different Fab numbers because, as you can see here, the AutoCut Fab number for the Sill is just X001, which is the same for all the horizontals as well. But for the head, the Takeoff program gives it X001F, F meaning flipped, because it knows that this thing is flipped over. But the Fab template looks identical. Oh, wait. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not identical. The Fab template is mitered on this side, and they're expecting the person who's installing this in the field to be flipping this over. So this notch ends up on the other side when you put it on the building. And that's why there's a 1L and a 1R, because they do have different notches. One's on the left side, one's on the right side. That being said, these notches are mirror copies of each other. So once you've made one, you just mirror copy this, and then once you paste it back down, it's going to be on the other side. So that's how I made these notches. I just made one of them and then mirrored it to the other side. But that was all done for me on the server, so I didn't have to do any of that myself, at least not this time around. Okay. So today we're going to go over AutoDetails mostly, but first I wanted to mention distributions, which are fairly simple. So I want to go over that real fast. As I mentioned before, releases and distributions are different. Releases is a group of materials you're outputting together, whereas a distribution is how those items are sent to the field. So you could end up having the same distribution on several different releases. Distributions are more a field thing. It doesn't really concern how you are releasing things to the shop or how you're packaging it for checking or anything like that. It's just a piece of data that says the address in the field of where this part should be delivered to. So you set these up in the Takeoff program under distribution info. And there's a couple reserved ones. This distribution index should be just a number, a whole number. And you never use 0. 0 is reserved by the program to indicate that it should do something special. And I'll go over that in a second. But and then distribution index 1 is also sort of reserved, but you kind of have to type this in. I should probably put this as built in to the standard template for the databases, but it's not right now. So you always need to make a distribution index 1. The distribution name is usually called shop use. You can leave building blank. Floor number you can never leave blank, so I usually just put 0 there. Area, nothing, and the abbreviation here is just shop, like that. So I always make a use like that. It doesn't matter if it's a stick wall or a tech wall or a unit wall or anything. This should always exist. Distribution index 1 being shop use. After that, you just start making up your distributions according to how the field wants the parts delivered. Most commonly, the field will want things delivered to the first floor, and then the second floor or the third floor. Sometimes they'll need that floor split up, so they'll be like, say, the north side of the first floor and the south side of the first floor will be 2 different distributions. And sometimes they want to go insane and they want you to distribute everything to each individual elevation, so there'll be hundreds of distributions. You got to fight that, because that's not good for the shop. It's also not good for you, and it's probably not even that good for the field anyway, because they won't end up with packages. They won't end up with pallets. They'll end up with a bunch of shrink-wrapped individual components in small little bundles, which it's just a lot of time for the shop to actually do. So usually up here, at least, we restrict them. We don't want them to really go above maybe 30 or so distributions on a large building. Of course, the bigger it is, the more distributions there will be. No stopping that, but we don't like it when they want distributions for every elevation. It's just insanity. So for this example, I'm going to pretend like this is a single building project with the distributions to, say, floor 1 north and floor 1 south, floor 2 north, floor 2 south. So I'll just fill this out really quick doing that. Starting with floor 1 north, like that. I can leave building blank. Floor number is going to be 1. Area, I'll just call it N for north. And the abbreviation will be, I don't know, F1 north, something like that. You want this abbreviation shows up on your glass order forms. It will put this in there as the header for the quantities. So you want that to be about 3 characters, maybe 4 at the most. Shop ends up working pretty well. It fits in there, but you don't want anything much wider than shop, otherwise it doesn't look right. So I'll go there. Floor 1 south. S, F1 S. And you just keep making these. The distribution index always goes up by 1. And for every line that you make, these 3 here, building, floor number, and area, need to be unique. There can't be 2 lines with the same values for all 3 of these. Like if I have another line here that's just 1 and like that, there's actually nothing distinguishing this distribution from this other distribution here. So it kind of doesn't make any sense. Usually, if you do need something similar to that, your areas aren't exactly like this. There should probably be more letters in here. Maybe you have a northwest and a northeast or something like that. So you would add more stuff to the area. And then building is just for other buildings in case you have a job that has multiple buildings and they're all in the same database, which is a whole nother problem. But anyway, so these should each line item here should have a unique distribution index, and the combination of these 3 should also be unique. So once I have this filled out, I usually put it in my other monitor. But since I can't do that, I'll not in this video at least, I'll just kind of put it there. I guess I'll shrink AutoCAD a little bit so you can see both. All right, and then so what you would do here, your taglines are assigned to these distributions. And that's what, if I click on one of these taglines, that's this distribution index. So if I wanted this is delivered to first floor, level 1. And I don't know which side of the building this is, but let's just assume it's north. I would assign everything on this elevation, just like that, to distribution index 2, which is floor 1 north. And then this one turns the corner, so it's probably not north anymore. It's probably, would that be the west side or something like that? But probably still on the north side of the building. This says level 3. But then it says level 1 here. All right, so I'm assuming it's actually supposed to be level 1 because this one's level 1 down here. So yeah, this one would probably end up with the same distribution index. And this guy here, it's on 2 different floors. So usually I start with the top floor. So I would select all of these just like that, change them all to, say this is also on the north side. This would be floor 2 north. So that's distribution index 4. Change the whole elevation to index 4. And then I'll go like that because my splice is right there and my floor line is above that. So I would do this afterwards and then change these again to floor 1 north, which would be 2. Oop. 2. That way you won't miss anything. So I have this one on 4, this one on 2, and they'll all get distributed the way I want it to. You have an option when you have an elevation that all goes to the same distribution, like these two here. You can do that in the Takeoff program as long as you leave the distribution index 0 over here. So this one I left as 0. This one I left as 0. And what the 0 means is don't use the distribution that's indicated at the elevation level in the Takeoff program. That was kind of a mouthful, but let me close that. So if you go to elevation info, each of your elevations is listed, and underneath each one of these, there's a distribution index. So I have one copy of elevation 2 on distribution index 1 right now. So any tagline that's set to distribution index 0 in elevation 2 will inherit this distribution index here. But I'm going to make this floor 1 north side, so I can just change it there. And that's just as good as changing all the tags individually. This is used more in the situation where this one elevation is copied multiple times. So you'll have to fill this out a little more. Say I had some kind of thing like this, where this was maybe elevation 2 is a punched opening and it occurs multiple places on the building. And it, in this case, appears 8 times. And I want them to go to different places on the building. So I can do something like that. So doing this method with the 0 for the distribution index on the tag is really good for punched openings or anything with some sort of elevation quantity, because you can just indicate it all here. And you don't have to sit here and like make copies of tags or do anything weird. But if your elevation is into like half of your elevation is in one distribution and the other half is in the other distribution, just like this elevation is, you have to do it on the taglines. So if this elevation here was 2 required, one was on the north side, one was on the south side, I'd actually, to get the distribution right, I'd have to copy all these tags somewhere else, probably over here off the page. And on one copy of them, I'll set them to distribution indexes 2 and 4, and then over here I'd set them to 3 and 5. So usually we don't do quantities on elevations with more than one floor for field use stuff, just for that reason, because we don't want to have to copy the tags and do something weird for the distribution. If you do have to do that, do it at the very end. You want to make sure that this elevation is completely correct before you copy it over to the side. Otherwise, you'll have to keep copying and possibly keep reattaching taglines or parts together using the attach pre-assemble extrusions button. So save it till the end. Most of the time that never happens though. So you have 2 options for distribution index 0 and fill it out here, or distribution index directly on the taglines, which is probably the most common way outside of punched openings. Any questions on that? I'm gonna delete some of these so I don't get weird stuff. All right, that's distribution. Remember, you can't filter by distribution because distribution has nothing to do with what is included in your release and what isn't. So just keep those straight in your head. All right, AutoDetails. This is the fun, crazy stuff. All right, so a little bit about where it came from. We were trying to make standardized data on the server, and it was really difficult to do because our jobs vary so much that we would have a horizontal with some standard data in it, but then all that standard data is basically useless when we change the vertical, or we have a different corner, or whatever. And if you try and incorporate all those different variations, your standard data just using the rules and the stuff we learned yesterday, it's very difficult because the number of combinations of your just thinking about horizontals, the number of combinations of horizontals you have to make is always squared the number of verticals you have. So if you have a simple system with just these 4 things happening, there are 16 different combinations of left and right for each horizontal. So you have to make 16 different horizontal uses that you have to keep in sync. And then if you add another mullion, now it's up to 25, another one 36, and pretty soon it gets completely out of control. So a lot of auto detail came from trying to figure out how we're going to make standard data. How do we make data on the server that we can build on without killing everyone, and killing the people who are trying to keep that data up to date. So so we made this whole construct, which I ended up calling AutoDetail. The use names follow a specific format. It's always the base name, dash, and then the name of the bottom left use of the tagline next to the bottom left of the main tagline, and then space TO, and then the name of the tagline to the top right. So I'm going to open up ACAD parts just so you can see a few in our Revit data. Now, there's been other standard names that our guys have come up with on top of what AutoDetail requires, but I'm just going to go over exactly what AutoDetail wants, disregarding sort of the crazy stuff they added. Where's a good one? That's a stack joint. So their main tag name here is Sill ST206D dash jam 275 to jam 275. So this data contains all the stuff that, just like our data that we made before, all of our horizontals, all of our sills, they were basically captured vertical to captured vertical. We just didn't name it like this to tell the program that it is captured vertical to captured vertical. Our data, like this horizontal, this one here is vertical to vertical, possibly jam to vertical also. This one here, though, is vertical to corner. So, but we didn't name our use like that. If we did, then it would end up being like an auto detail. The way they set this up is they have a jam to jam. They have a inviso jam, which is structurally glazed jam to structurally glazed jam. They have a corner to corner, structurally glazed vertical to structurally glazed vertical, capture vertical to capture vertical. These are some extended covers here. So what you would do if you're setting up auto details is you would make these uses. Usually for horizontals, you do it symmetrically like this, where it's one thing to the same thing. Once you make all these and you get them into your database, it will make all the other combinations of these uses for you automatically, along with all the fab templates that go with those different combinations. So let's do a small demo of that using our data here. It may not seem practical on this just because we only have one corner, but I need to demonstrate it some way. So let's just try it with this thing. I'm going to erase this rule here. And I'm going to rename these uses. So this one I want to call vert to vert. And then this one I'm going to change its name so that it's horizontal dash corner to corner, like that. Now I don't have a corner to corner in this job. I guess it shouldn't be corner to corner. It should be corner L to corner R, because that's my actual tag name. So I don't actually have a corner to corner on this job, but if I build this corner to corner horizontal, it will make the other combinations that I need. So let me hit apply here. Just changing the names. All I did was change these names, right? And I erased the rule off of this one. I'll hit apply, and you'll see AutoDetail has made a horizontal use, which doesn't have any parts in it at all. It's what I called a rules container. And then it created these rules here on the side, and they're in blue for the different combinations of vert on the left and the right, and corner L and corner R. So it made rules for or to go from this horizontal tag to the vert to vert version of it, the vert to corner R version, corner L to vert, and corner L to corner R. Okay. Now, when I go to UPD, this elevation, we'll see some of the magic. Some of it. We still have a lot more to set up here. Okay. So let me hit refresh here, and you'll see, because of what it saw on this elevation when I UPD'd it, it found out that, hey, this rule should be applying, but this use doesn't exist, the vert to corner R. So I'm going to create one. So what it did is it created a vert to corner R, and it took all the stuff that was defining this vert to vert, the left side stuff, and combined it with the right side stuff of this use to make this new use. Does that kind of make sense? And it does it in sort of in a way that's intuitive. So if I have here, it's hard to tell because I haven't actually made this thing correctly. Let's fix this corner real fast to make it more like a corner to corner. So the left side of this is still acting like a normal vert. So I'm gonna just make it match. These adjustments should all match. In an AutoDetails world, these would all match. And because it's corner to corner, I don't need this shear block clip because there is no shear block clip on the left side if it's corner to corner. We're just going to we have both of our shear block clips here, and they're both on the right side of the vertical. None of my fab numbers actually need to change, so that's kind of handy. I'll hit apply there. So what it does when it makes this thing is it takes the adjustment on the left side of this use for all of these parts, and the right side adjustment for these assembly parts here, combines them into this to make the combination of them. It also takes the fixed length parts that are on the left side, i.e. this shear block clip, came from this this item on the vert to vert side. It didn't use this one because this is on the right side of vert to vert. So it kind of just threw that away. It doesn't need it. But it took the two right side clips from this use and put them here too. So it's combining some of the left and some of the right side of both of these to make this new version. And it also made corner to vert, which is what I have on elevation 3, which I haven't even looked at yet. But it knows it needs it because I UPD'd this whole sheet, and it did the same thing. And you can see here that it only has a shear block clip on the right. It doesn't have any shear block clips on the left, because in this situation, I didn't want it to have a shear block clip on the left. There is no mullion here, so there's no reason to have that shear block clip. The shear block clip on this mullion is over in this elevation here. So it kind of smartly combines the uses together to make new uses out of it, so you don't have to make them. Does that kind of make sense?
Like it.
I know it's a lot. It's kind of a big jump from, but it's using the same technology as far as rules go. It's basically using rules. It's just making the targets for those rules for you by composing these together. So let's expand this a little bit. This right now is vert to vert, but we also need a jam to jam. We have a jam here. So let's make a jam to jam real fast. It should actually be identical to this data. So because I spent so much time getting this data perfect, it should be a pretty easy copy, paste, and then rename this jam L to jam R. Okay. Identical data. When I hit apply, it's going to go, if you look at your rules container, now jam L and jam R are in the mix, and it has all of those different combinations of rules possible. And now when I UPD this, it's going to see that it needs jam L to vert version of that horizontal. And so when I hit refresh, it looks like it found another one. So there's jam L to vert, and that was for this, the left side of this one, and also the left side of this. But it also found out that it also needed jam R for this side of that, of elevation 1. So it made that for me as well. So I only had to make 3 uses here. Even though this one's the same, I'm just going to count it as 3 different uses. And AutoDetail made 4 other ones on top of that that I also need. And I'm not actually using jam to jam, and I'm not using corner to corner, but I am using vert to vert. So I've got 5 uses here that I'm actually using on this job, these guys, and I only had to make 3. And it gets better and better the more weird stuff there is. If you're alternating verticals from like capture to structurally glazed, or you have 2 different widths of verticals, or maybe you have some verticals with extended covers, some don't, you can give them different names and have the horizontals do different things at those locations versus sort of normal verticals. And this will compose them into all the different fab templates that you, and all the data that you need. All right, a little bit of terminology. These here that are in white, the ones that I created, I call those source uses because they're kind of the source of all the other ones. And then all these blue ones here are derived. They derive from the sources. The derived uses, you can't do anything to them. You can't type in these numbers at all. You can't change the name of them. You can't mess with the description. There's almost nothing you can do to these things. I can't click and check these boxes because they're derived from the source uses. If I needed to change one of these, maybe I found out that my jam, I needed this adjustment to be different or something like that. If I change it here, it will change. If I change this one number here, it will change on all the other derived uses that use the left side of this source. So if I change this to 2 and hit apply, this jam L over here automatically changed to 2 as well because they're kind of linked. So you can't edit the derived uses, but you can certainly edit the source uses so that the derived uses change. And that goes for not just adjustments, but it goes for fab numbers, finishes, anything in this box, all the miscellaneous stuff, if you were doing it, that all gets applied and propagated from source use to derived use whenever you hit apply. Okay, let's, the horizontal was pretty easy to convert here. Let's do the sill and the head. So the sill and the head, we could also convert it into AutoDetails. And actually, once you have your data like this, it's fairly easy to do. I'll delete this rule again. And this sill is vert to vert. to vert. And this sill here is, I'm going to make it corner to corner, corner L to corner R. All right. Corner L to corner R, I don't need this shear block clip. And my adjustments should be the same on both sides. This should be minus 14, 0.625. The rest are zeros. This fab number is fine. 1B is what we're using everywhere at the sills. I only have shear block clips on the right. That looks good. But this fab number is a problem. So bear with me. I'm going to change this to C for corner, just Fab C. I'll hit apply there. So again, it made my rules container with the different combinations. Let me do the head too. So for the head, same deal. Vert to vert, no more rule. This is corner L to corner R. And put my adjustments in here. I don't need this shear block clip. And then this fab number, so if we're thinking of corner to corner, the fab number for the head should be the exact same as the fab number for the sill, right? The sill at the corner is Fab C. The fab at the head, if it's corner to corner, should also be Fab C. Because they're going to have the same notch on both sides, the same altered location of the shear block clip screw. All that stuff is the same. So I'll hit apply. Again, I made my rules there. And then let's UPD and see what happens to those fab numbers. Okay, so I have to go refresh here. So it made my, let's look at the sill first. It made my vert to corner. And then over here at the main member, the sill member, it gave me this weird fab number, 1 equals C. And the reason it came out with that is because it's taking, this is kind of like a dual fab number. It's fab number 1 on the left side of the fab and fab number C on the right side of the fab. So vert to vert, originally it's fab 1, right? And then this one was Fab C. And when combined, it's 1 on the left, C on the right. And then this one, you can imagine, this one is C on the left, 1 on the right. All right, so let's go into the same thing is true for the head. So for the head, this one here should be 1 equals C. Oh wait, no, it's not, because it's flipped over. Because this thing is flipped over, it's C equals 1. So it already knew that because this part is flipped over, these fabs have to be flipped as well. So it's doing something strange there. But we'll take a look at that. Q save. So before I actually run QBIM, I'm going to go open up these fabs and make that Fab C that I need. Now, you don't have to do this ahead of time. I'm just going to do it right now because I think it will make a little more sense if I do. So this is 1100. And I don't have a Fab C, but I have this 1R. This 1R is probably the closest thing I got to it. So I want, I don't want that notch. but I want this notch and I want this notch. So I'm going to copy those. So copy that and copy this. So you can do this add to copy. So I copied the first one, and then the second one I'm going to add to it. So now I should have both notches, and they're both on the right side. I can also add as a mirror copy. So I have both notches from the right side. Now I'm going to add as a mirrored copy. So now I have both of them left and right for one fab. Cool. Then I'm going to make a copy of Fab 1 here. I'm going to call it my Fab C. Fab C is supposed to be corner to corner. And I have all the notches to make this thing on my clipboard. So I don't need this guy. I don't need this one. Still have this 7 thing. I'm probably going to have to erase all that. The gasket's in here too. They weren't feet. But I'm going to right click paste. I should be pasting 4 notches, the 2 lefts and the 2 rights. There. So I got, this is, can't even see it. Oh, there it is. It's right here. That big thing, this little guy, and this one. So this is going to be my Fab C. I'm going to erase that for now. I'm going to erase this. This will get fixed when we actually run the BIM model. Actually, it won't get fixed, but it's okay because we actually aren't using Fab C anywhere. So my Fab C on the left side has these notches. On the right side, it has these notches. So when I run QBIM, gotta close that too. When I run QBIM on this elevation, it's gonna try and make those fabs the 1 equals C fab and the C equals 1 fab so that I can use them for the head and the sill. And it's gonna do that by combining the Fab 1 that I already have and the Fab C that I just made along with AutoCut to make that new fab, which will actually be like X001-1 equals C, like something crazy. But the good thing is I didn't have to name it, and it actually made it for me by composing 2 simpler fabs together. So this one up here is broken at the moment because I didn't make a jam rule for those. But over here, things should look good. Almost looks like nothing changed. If I click on one of them, this is the sill. No, that's the filler. Sorry. It's hard to grab the sill. There's the sill or the head. This case is the sill. You can see it's X001 because it's AutoCut, and it's using 1 equals C. So it's a Fab 1 on the left and a Fab C on the right. And when I open this template, we can see what it made. It perfectly combined my Fab 1 and my Fab C. There may be some little things to fix, like this guy, which needs to be pulled back. So that's 14 inches from the end. I'm just going to eyeball it. Oops. I'm just going to eyeball it because it's not actually dimension 2. Looks like the filler is missing there. Probably because they're not attached anymore. Yeah, they're not attached anymore. So I lost because I redid. The use that this thing is assigned to is not the same as it used to be. So I actually have to reattach this mullion. Or this filler. Probably have to do the same thing up here. Hit save. I can right click on this and redraw fab template And right click on this and redraw fab template. Now let's see how they look. So when I did the redraw fab template, it knew to synchronize this template to whatever was in my BIM model, which means you have a filler. So it fixed all that for me. I did have to move this, mostly because this thing is not inside of any of the notches or the features for this fab template. So it doesn't know what to do with it. So it just leaves it there from the fab one. So there's some minor stuff that you may have to fix like that. But other than that, it made this whole fab from scratch by combining two other fabs, and it made its opposite. This one here. Again, this thing should probably be part of a feature that's inside of the original Fab C, so that the dimension shows up in the right side. So AutoDetails tries to use everything that we learned so far. Well, it's scaled because it's over a certain amount, so I gotta actually type this in. It uses all the like notches and features to combine fab templates together to make new fab templates. And it uses all these little codes that we added to the fixed length parts, so it knows which parts to use where, all in an effort to combine these uses together and make things easy for you guys. The other thing I haven't mentioned, any questions about that before I go off on a little more stuff on this? It's a lot to digest, I know, but hopefully you can play around with it after today. So the other thing AutoDetails requires of us that we haven't put in before is this crazy stuff with the fab numbers. So we already talked about the equal sign and what that means. It's usually the fab, the bottom left fab and the top right fab number. But there's also this part of it, which all vertical fab templates should have a fab number that say at R or at L. So that would be our jam mostly, but all verticals should have it. That just says whether it's a left-handed vertical or a right-handed vertical. AutoDetails needs to know that so that it knows which notches to copy on a reversed fab template, like the jams end up being. So if you don't put that there, it's basically going to assume at L and just go with that. So I guess the most important one is at R. But as a good habit, you should probably just put it on everything. So I'm going to convert the jam here and the vertical and the corner to use AutoDetails. Now, right now, I don't have any other conditions other than sill and head. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now. So let's go to jam. So this is jam L, sill to head. And it has, this shouldn't be fab L, it should just be 1 at L, because it's a left-handed jam. None of these other things are actually drawn on vertical templates, so I don't need to put the at on any of these. It's only for vertical fab templates. Let's do the corner as well. So this is corner R. So do head. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to type it out. And this is the right side corner, so I'll just hit at R. This thing isn't on a vertical template, so we'll let it be. This interior trim, I don't believe is on a vertical template either, so I don't need it there. This is for sill to head, and this should be at L. You can just kind of pick one for these as long as you're consistent. R for the right jam. Sill to head. This is our captured vertical. Again, at L. This vert here at L. This one is also an at L. They should all be at L's unless it's actually a handed part. And then these don't count. They're not on vertical templates. Hit apply. And let's fix that sill thing. You'll see that my sill and my head disappeared from here because I never made a jam to jam definition for sill or head. So that should be an identical copy of this thing. Jam L to jam R. Yeah, copying it doesn't make any sense because now it's gone. All right, hit apply. I got my added rules here. I've got added rules to all of these verticals, which are now all set up to use some kind of rule. Right now it's just head to sill, but as I add additional things to these, like say I needed, so I have jam R sill to head. What if I made jam R MS moving splice to moving splice? If I made that one, then it will know how to combine sill to moving splice, and then it will just use moving splice to moving splice, and then it will do moving splice to head, and it'll make all three of the different variations of this jam that I would need for a curtain wall, a multi-floor curtain wall, with me only having to make two things instead of three. If I had a soffit and a parapet that were somehow different to what normally happens at a sill or head, I can make jam R soffit to parapet, and then I would have all the combinations of soffits, parapets, sills, heads, and moving splices, and hard splices even, by just making those 4 different uses and not having to make the 16 possible combinations that there could be. So that's the motivation behind doing auto details. It's a little bit of a hurdle of complexity up front, but it helps you not just not having to make all these extra uses, but it also helps you be consistent between those uses because all you have to do is change the source and it changes all the derived ones at the same time. And it makes all your fab templates. It combines them. You don't have to copy your notches manually and make all these different templates. It makes them for you. Let's UPD this. And now my sill and head should be back because now I have jam stuff for those. None of my verts should disappear because I made sill to head on all of them. Ooh, cool. That hasn't happened since that first video that I didn't record, huh? Well, that's unfortunate. So any questions about auto detail? I'm sure there are. You'll find more questions as you're using it and trying to set things up.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be once you start doing it, more of the questions are going to come up.
Yeah, for sure. It's and I didn't even cover all the little nuances of it. The whole goal of it though is to be intuitive as far as it does what you expect it to do. It shouldn't surprise you. The one thing that I've seen a lot of people, what it kind of catches people on is, oh man, Oh, I pinned them here, but they're gone. Oh man. Oh well. Go the roundabout way back to my elevation. One of the things that it really is a stickler about is your layouts. So, and when I tell you what these requirements are, it should be pretty obvious. But looking at this, my layout for these non-fixed length parts, they should all be the same as every other version of the Sill that has those same parts, right? Because the tagline should be in the same place. It should be working off the same detail. Like all that stuff should be the same. The layouts should always be the same between all of them. If they aren't the same, then there will be warnings when you save your UD window. Like if I bump this over a little bit so that it doesn't perfectly match all these other ones, it will tell me as I try and save it, and AutoDetails won't know exactly what to do because the only way that it knows the relationship between this use and this use is the part number and the layout. If there's any weird variation in the layout, then it won't know that this 1100 is the same as this 1100, and then the derived use might have two 1100s. It might not have any of them. I can't even tell you. So that happens quite a bit, and that's another reason why we built the data the way we did when we went through these lessons. Is I wanted you to do just one use in here with one layout, and you do that one to completion. You get the fab number correct, you get the little fab templates correct, all the notches fine, you get your adjustments correct. And then we started, just in this class, maybe the last class with AutoCut, started copying them to make different variant uses with different adjustments, because that is the only way that I was going to be certain that your layouts were going to be the same between these different uses. And if you copy these too early and then you find out you have to change one, then you have to end up changing a bunch of them. So it gets bad. So you got to, choose the order that you proceed with things to sort of minimize the rework that you may have. You want to get as far as you can with one use, so that you know that it's 100% perfect. It's gone through checking. Maybe it's even gone through release before you start copying it. Because if you find a problem with it later, you have more things to fix, which always ends up happening, but you can at least minimize how much work there is there.
So when you have let's say you have multiple different corners. Let's say you got a 90-degree inside corner, a 90-degree outside corner, an 82-degree outside corner. So you essentially, would you make 3 uses, one for 90 inside corner left, 90 inside corner right, 90
Pretty
outside
much.
corner left, 90 outside corner right, and same with 82-degree outside corner?
Yeah, I would have different names for them. So if this corner L, corner R is for a 90-degree corner, if I also had inside corner, I would, we usually use like something like that, I guess. Inside corner L to inside corner R. If you have different angles, you could do the same thing. This is really good for segmented walls. Like if you had like a vert 89 degrees, or I guess it's, 89 doesn't really make sense. Sorry, like 179 to vert 179. And maybe you have even another angle. Maybe you have like 181 or something like that. So even if 179 to 179 doesn't occur on your job, it will be able to combine this vert 179 with a vert. It'll be able to combine 179 with 181, vert with 181. It will get all of those different combinations that might occur on your job. It doesn't make any of them, at least in this list, it doesn't make any of them until they actually exist, until you encounter them in a UPD. But it does make all of these rules so that it's ready for it. You can see how many rules it already made, just to cover all these different conditions and when they hit corners and all that stuff. So this AutoDetails really wants you to name your taglines based on what they actually look like and do. So if I had a segmented wall, I would actually, and I did kind of do this setup, I would want to name my verticals vert 179 if they were if it was convex, 181 if it was concave. I'd want to name the tagline vert if it was just straight. You know, you kind of have to set up sort of standard names for each of the details so that all the other parts, like the horizontals that hit those details, know what to do at those situations. You might even want to draw these, even like inside corner to inside corner never occurs, but you may want to draw a horizontal tagline across here with an inside corner, and just make that real fast. And then you'll get all the combinations of that with jams, with doors, with all these other things that may happen. Same with your door verticals. Your door verticals probably shouldn't just be called vert. It probably, if they require something different, which in this case it doesn't, but if it did require something different, then you would have some kind of name, a different name here that you could use with auto detail to get another variation of a horizontal or a sill, so that when it hits a door vertical, it does what you want it to do rather than something that you don't want it to, and then you have to force name the taglines different things and whatnot. So I hope that all made sense. I know it was a lot. AutoDetails is probably the most complicated thing, one of the most complicated things in the Takeoff program. And it can really, until you get used to it, it really can hang you up. But hopefully you can just, what I really want you to get from this is just sort of the base logic of how it works, and how you might use that in your own projects, and hopefully even use it to make your own standard data, which would be the best. Of course, you need standard names for these things, but yeah, there's a lot of possibilities with it. All right. So your homework, if there's no other questions, and we're running a little over, like usual, we're running over. Why won't it let me wheel this? Okay, there we go. Oh, it won't let me wheel because I'm at the bottom. So the homework is to try and convert data from and Fab templates over to use AutoDetails, which I've done quite a bit of them here, but I still have to do all my vertical Fab templates to make them all at L or at R. And I could just rename the files to do that. But yeah, try setting up the corner especially, maybe even this jam thing, even though it's the same as everywhere else. And as you do that, you should get this corner for free, like I did. And you should also get this jam for free. All my stuff got unattached because none of these verticals are coming in anymore, because I messed something up. So figure out what happened there, but oh yeah, because this isn't Sill to head, so it doesn't know what to do here. So I actually do need that MS tagline that goes across like that. And then I'd probably have to make vert Sill head and then vert MS to MS for moving splice to moving splice. And then it should get me these two verticals. So I'm gonna cancel the lesson for tomorrow because I'm not gonna be in the office. But that should give you guys more time to try this out, maybe even on your own projects. It's completely compatible with what you're doing already in your projects. It's kind of an opt-in kind of deal. You can make a detail that does do things this way and just see how it works out for you with the Fab templates that do that work that way as well. Or you can just try it in this pretend database that we're messing with. So you'll have all day tomorrow to do that and the rest of the day today, and we'll pick this back up on Monday. I don't have any planned content for Monday yet. I don't think I am gonna plan anything for Monday. So I think Monday will be our last class, and it'll just be sort of a Ask Me Anything session where you can ask me anything about your specific job, and we'll just pass the screen sharing around. Or you can ask me about stuff in this job, and I could show you stuff. Whatever, it'll just be kind of a free-for-all for an hour. So you have an extra day to build up questions or try and figure out things to ask me. All right. So good luck with AutoDetails. Have fun playing with that, and I'll see you Monday.
Thanks, Zach.